Alright, day 2 of trying to tackle this thing. That torch gas again. Got a new kingpin bolt coming. Got a new bolt that holds the tongue into the yoke. Fortunately, the bolt warehouse didn't have either one of them in stock, but I'll have them before the end of the week. The big thing is the tie rod end. So far, that has been rather elusive. It is still a good part number from New Holland. 166 something. But like I say, still a good part number from New Holland. But guess how much New Holland wants for that little tie rod end, like yay long, 11, near as I can tell, 11/16 stud. I'll know more when I get the rest of it out of the actual tie rod. But just that little tiny, like automotive style tie rod end. Guess how much they want for that thing? $234 freaking dollars from New Holland. I wish I knew what they were smoking, because I want some. Like, that is nuts. But so far, trying to match that up to a regular automotive one, it appears that stud size makes it kind of a bastard. So we shall see. But anyhow, today's projects hopefully get one, if not both, of these spindles loose and working. So we're gonna. I got me a long lever this time rather than the hammer, so that hopefully when I get some heat into it, we can really horse on it. We shall see. So let's find out. Now that I've got enough gas, I should actually be able to get some real heat into it. I didn't realize it was falling so far behind. Okay, they're both out. It was a fight. It was definitely a two-man job. But basically, we got it to where while they were hot, they would take grease, so the grease went in molten so that it could flow. Got grease pumping in them, and you start moving them, and we were able to get them hammered down far enough to get that sleeve puller on there, and then use the sleeve puller as a press and shoved them out. That one fought harder than this one did, but it still came out the same way. So, and we got that other spindle, the pitman arm is straightened out as good as it's gonna get. So we were able to straighten that out while it was still stuck in the gear, so we had stuff to pry off of. But so that's straightened out, so all we got to do is hone them out and wire brush everything up and put new grease zerks in and stuff it back together. And there are grease grooves cut into these things, so they couldn't even use the excuse that it wouldn't take grease, because there's grooves for it. Check this out. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, if at all, but they ran this thing without grease for so long it actually galled the shaft. Like, there's hunks of material removed from this thing from being run without grease. That's why you grease your shit, people. And if it won't take grease, you figure out why. But if you see that groove, is it showing up? Yeah, that groove right there, that's the grease groove. It's in line with the zerk, so that you've got a uninhibited path for grease to get all the way around. That was all full of rust because it never been greased. So if you do have something that won't take grease and you take it apart and you got a grease zerk but no grease groove, you can get a die grinder. If you get a small enough hard wheel or something in it, you can go and make your own grease groove in it, and it'll make it easier to grease. Alright, I took a Scotch-Brite pad to the spindle and got that. I guess I got all the ridges, like it's not rough, and I mean you can still feel all the bark marks, but there's no rough edges on it anymore. It's just pitted. That's cleaned up. This is honed, new zerks in it, grease grooves cleaned out. Everything's cleaned up, so we just got to slide her back together. And I see these on the keeper bolt. And that ought to about do her. Alright, it's all kosher now. Tires and wheels back on. I chased the lug nut holes in the hubs and I seized the lugs going back in so that they won't get stuck. And then as luck would have it, I'd been thinking the same thing all day, and then Dad asked me and I was like, I'm gonna go up and measure. That tie rod end right there, near as I could tell measuring, the exact same tie rod end as the inner tie rod on a large frame wide front fleet line, or like fleet line Super 3 did it, so 77, 88, Super 770, 880. Same tie rod end, 11/16 stud, and same, it's the same thread all the way out to the housing. It's so tomorrow I'm gonna call Corvs and get, if I'm doing one, I might as well do both. So tomorrow I'll call Corvs and get 2 coming, and yeah. So man, they resurface the road and people start driving like idiots again. I almost wish they'd left it rough. Of course, that really didn't slow people down anyhow. But so yeah, that's crisis averted, because $234 from New Holland, or I think they're like 25, 30, but they might be a little bit more now, but they're less than $50 a piece from Core, so I get 2 for less than the price of half of one from New Holland. So do that in the morning, and then we get back tomorrow, and I'll get the tie rod ends out of the drag link, and we'll get the new pucks machined for the center yoke, and at that point I'll be waiting on bolts and tie rod ends and the gear. Oh, I gotta get the correct size rim for this corner, and then I'm just gonna mount this. For now, I'll just mount this tire on the wider rim, and then it'll match, because it's 9.5s all the way around right now. It's just this one's on a 8-inch rim instead of a 10, so they're stretched on those 3 rims, and it's correct on this rim. So but we got a whole stack of brand spanking new 10-inch rims down at work, because they used them on the anhydrous wagons that we don't have anymore. So Ryan said I could just have one. So bring a rim home, mount this tire on that rim. This hub needs tightened up. Eventually, probably before, if I can squeak it in between combine maintenance and ran tool and blah blah blah, all the stuff we got going on in August. Need to pull all the hubs apart and at least repack, if not replace, the wheel bearings and seals. But for now, for the one load this thing's gonna haul, we're just gonna tighten that guy up for now, and then grease the hubs, and it'll be good. And then I also noticed that the reach tube has got a wow in it that way, and a sway back in it, probably from getting drug around with the steering locked up. So don't know if it's worth trying to straighten that one, because I've seen reach tubes bend before. I'm right out here in this low spot. The neighbor was baling hay, and Tim was running the tractor, and Carrie was up on the wagon, and it was pretty, we're basically just finishing the wagon off. It was pretty much all the way loaded, and they came down that little hill right there down into this low spot, and the wagon, or the reach, folded up and dumped the rack off the wagon with Carrie on top of the stack, and he ran the bales. How the hell he managed to stay on his feet? But he stayed on top of the rack and ran the bales all the way down, and basically ran, as it was falling, ran down the falling bales, and basically walked right out on the ground. Didn't fall, nothing. Dad and I were right out here in the driveway and watched it happen. It was like it happened in slow motion. So having seen something like that, I don't know if I would try to straighten this thing out and risk it bending, or if I just buy a new hunk of tube and just make a new reach, because it's only 8 or 3/16, not very heavy tube. It wouldn't be that expensive to just buy a drop, and you just have to punch 2 holes in it, because that's the length it needs to be. So, and if I did it that way, I would actually, since it's telescoped all the way out, I would probably measure how far I need to get a full length, and get a new reach tube and just cut it as long as it needs to be. That way you have full engagement all the way up in there for strength, because I'm never going to have to collapse it, and if I do, I'll shorten it and do whatever I need to do. But So, but anyhow, I'm gonna get things put away, get things cleaned up, go home and get dinner because it's 9:30 and it's time to get dinner. So we will catch you guys tomorrow. But that's great success right there. I'm happy with that. All right, we're gonna do the rest of what I can do on the running gear today. So before I bother dragging it up here, really the only thing I need up here for is that tighten that wheel bearing up. But want to get I ordered 2 tie rod ends from Corvs, so they're on their way. Most likely you're gonna see those probably tomorrow. So I want to get this apart, make sure there's an 11/16 tap in there. I want to make sure that's the right tap, so I know I got something to chase threads. And then gonna have to hunt down some new jam nuts, because the new tie rod ends won't come with jam nuts, because on the tractors there's a clamp. The tie rod tube is split and there's a clamp on it to hold the threads. There's not a jam nut. So get this thing up in a vise and get some heat to it, and hopefully everything comes apart. This one might turn into surgery. So I'll let that cool down and flip to the other side, see if that one will come apart. Alright, the other side, heated that up a little bit. It spun right out, no muss, no fuss. This side is worrying me a little bit. I don't like how it turns a little bit and then it gets hard. So what I'm going to do, heat it up, heat the whole thing up, just heat this whole area up cherry red. Since it's steel, don't really have to worry too much about making it too brittle, but heat it up, okay, not cherry red, but you know, orange, not super duper hot. Quench it, that should break the rust, and then heat it up, or heat the tube up and see if it'll come out that way. So that's the plan. And if it still acts funny after that, so that I don't screw the threads up, we'll saw the nut off and drill it and try to get it out that way. But there's also the possibility that when that tie rod end on this end bent, it could have screwed the threads up inside the tube, so we might be fighting more than rust on this side. Alright, it's quenched. Kicker of it is, by the way it heated up, this section right here heated up faster than this section, which most likely means you're hollow here, so it took heat faster, so it's really only in there about yay far. Huh. Well, good news. It's out. Bad news, it peeled the threads off the end of the stud. Good news, the threads stayed in there. It didn't look like it peeled the threads out of the tube. So we can just chase them out. So I'll take that as a win. So we'll let this thing come down to temperature before we screw with it, because you don't want to go chasing it hot, because then you'll gall the tap and you'll have a real bad day. So we'll set this down, walk away from it for a little bit. Alright, just had a little bit of an interesting experience. I wanted to just double check the thread pitch on the tie rod ends in the 77, so I grabbed the thread pitch gauge, walked up there, walked up to the door. It's like, that's odd. I smell diesel fuel, and I looked over, the floor, the ground's covered in diesel fuel. I looked up at the tank that's up there, and there's a big paint bubble right smack center in the bottom of the tank. It is dripping diesel fuel. So luckily we had there's two tanks sitting up there empty that we weren't doing anything with, so I got fuel transferring into the one. Unfortunately there was some crap in the bottom of it, but what can you do? You ain't got time to screw around. You got to get the fuel out of the leaker, so whatever we use for a pump to get it out, just have to make sure it's got a dang good filter on it. So I guess the overhead tank up there is kaput, because once they start leaking, it's not worth fiddling with. Because one of these, you leave it like that, it's one of these days it's going to start leaking when you're not walking up there, and you're going to lose a whole 300 gallons. Because it happened. It was clear full. So it's currently up there transferring. So anyhow, did not have a tap for this. It's an 11/16 thread. The tap we have is an 11/16 which is an extra fine. 11/16 is a standard national fine. So got a tap coming, and got nuts coming, and just by sheer chance, when I was looking up jam nuts for it, it says 11/16 jam nuts for tie rod ends. So apparently it's a standard tie rod end thread. So that's on hold. That's as far as we can take it. So we're gonna start working on this. Have to replace these pucks, because the holes are all egged out. This side's worse than this side. So they got some pretty puny welds on there. I'm thinking where'd I put the? I got a slitter wheel and the die grinder. Hopefully just be able to go in there and slip those welds and smack it and break it out with a hammer. And then we'll get some flat stock, make some new pucks, drill the holes on size, and hopefully tighten this up a little bit between that and the new bolt. And the tongue itself will be a project for a different day. So anyhow, All right, those are done. You can see, if I can get a decent angle on it, you can kind of see how egged out that hole was by the reveal there on the new part versus the old yoke, because originally them holes were worn straight through. You couldn't tell where the stiffening plate and the channel started and are separated from each other. So when I welded these in, I took them and knocked them all the way against the furthest out point of the hole, because that's where you're going to be pulling on it. So I think eventually we're going to have to end up just completely just making a complete new yoke for this, because I noticed while I had it turned up, it's rotted through right here. And I don't know, this thing had to have spent some time sitting in a pasture or something, or there was trash, manure, something sitting right here, because it is all ate out like something terrible right down in there. Like it was packed full of crap and it just stayed there forever. So, which it'll be an easy piece to make. Just draw this out and have it lasered out of a piece of flat plate for your travel stop, and that's just a square piece of plate. And these things are custom formed, but you can just make those out of regular old channel iron, and a little heavier wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world. And a piece of pipe reamed to was that 7/8 bolt if I remember right, and then a stiffening plate right there, and wham bam, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So it would be very, very easy to replicate out of a little heavier iron. But for now, we're going to make it work. So it's only got to get through 2 cuttings. And then if need be, we can fiddle with it this winter. But with that being said, I pretty much reached a stopping point for the night. I'm not going to... I can mess with that bearing later. So I'm waiting on my tie rod ends, my tap to chase the threads, jam nuts, the new kingpin bolt, and the new tongue bolt. And once I have all that stuff, we can throw the front end back together, and the front end's good, and tighten up that one wheel bearing, swap that tire onto the correct size rim. And for the time being, the gear is ready to rock and roll. Between second and third cutting, we'll replace that reach tube, but for now I just want to get the thing going, because I'd like to be dropping hay by like Monday, Tuesday time frame of next week. So it looks like the weather's going to be good for it. So we got rain forecasted for Friday, Saturday. Some pretty good chances as of right now, and hopefully we get it, because the corn is really starting to show it. There's stuff curled up pretty bad. So we need some rain pronto. The next 2 days ain't gonna help, because it's supposed to be in the upper 90s with a high humidity index. So yeah, pray for rain. We could use it. Otherwise, the really good looking crop we got going on right now is another few days of this without rain, and it's not gonna be such a good looking crop anymore. So, and I got a grain cart that I want to call on, but until I am a little more certain that we're going to have a crop to harvest, I don't really want to go spending the money just yet. So I've kind of been holding off to see what the weather's going to do, as stupid as that sounds for buying a grain cart. But probably going to give it a few more weeks. We get to the middle of August and things look good, then we can be pretty safe. But anyhow, we're not worried about that right now. So with that being said, we're going to stop here for this video, and tomorrow we will, pending any parts showing up, which I doubt. Well, my tap and nuts I know for sure ain't gonna show up till Thursday. So tomorrow we're gonna start working on the cage, start getting that cut down to turn into a flat rack. So that will be where we catch you guys on the next one. So that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.